Surrounded by an aura of power, with the wave of a hand, the very ground beneath your feet trembles and rumbles as stones and boulders rise from the earth to their command. Welcome to my god Geomancer build for the Druid, a master of the elements and nature itself. This build manipulates the earth and all of its natural resources, granting them unparalleled strength and flexibility in battle. With the Druid on your side, you can bend the fight to your will and crush your enemies with a force they cannot withstand. I tried several different builds, but primarily focused around Landslide. With only a few pieces of gear, I felt powerful, but I think this build, as well as the class itself, works better in a group setting rather than braving the wilds of Sanctuary alone. Some of the pros of this build: it has high burst, it can destroy regular mobs and elites with one Landslide cast, it has excellent group synergy with debuffs and crowd control for days, and it has great survivability. Not only with Earth and Bulwark has a great barrier skill, but it has multiple forms of damage reduction and crowd control as well. Some of the cons of this build: it is heavily gear reliant. I needed a few legendary pieces for this class to really shine, especially the one that gives attack speed. It has no mobility. This build doesn't use transformations, so I was very slow. I literally had to walk everywhere. It did not feel great. Also, it has low DPS, as it took me way longer to kill bosses than, say, a Necromancer or Sorcerer. Alright, let's get to the build. So, I went with Earth Spike as my basic skill because I wanted to do like a ranged caster build for Druid, and this one fit pretty well. So just Sunder the Earth, impaling the first enemy hit for 16% damage. I went with Enhanced Earth Spike. Earth Spike has a 10% chance to stun for 2.5 seconds. And I went with Fierce Earth Spike, where I fortify for 2% of my base health or base life whenever Earth Spike damages enemies who are stunned, immobilized, or knocked back. Then I went with Heart of the Wild, where my maximum spirit was increased by 3. I went with that so I can get this. Wild Impulses. My core skills cost 15% more spirit, but they deal 30% more damage. And it was all funneling into this skill here, Landslide, where I put 5 out of 5 points in it, and I had a gear piece that gave me another point, so I had 6 out of 5 in the end. And this just summons pillars from the ground that come up and smash into the enemy, and they deal quite a bit of damage. Then I went with Enhanced Landslide, so after Landslide damages enemies 4 times, the next hit will immobilize enemies for 3 seconds. Then I have Primal Landslide, where when you mobilize or stun an enemy, you gain a Terror mode. Each enemy hit by a landslide consumes the Terror mode, causing a guaranteed critical strike with 40% critical strike damage. Bosses always have up to a 10% chance to grant a Terror mode when hit. Then I went with Earthen Bulwark as my defensive skill. It's literally just a barrier that absorbs 45% of my base life in damage, and it lasts for 3 seconds. Then I went with Enhanced Earthen Bulwark, which makes me unstoppable while active. And then I went with Preserving Earthen Bulwark, so it can grant 18% base life as Fortify. Here is why I picked the range base skill, because this, Nature's Reach, deal 9% increased damage to distant enemies. Double this bonus if they are also slowed, stunned, immobilized, or knocked back. Basically, I wanted to be nowhere near any enemy as much as I could. I wanted to be far away, immobilize them with a ranged spell, and then boom, hit Landslide on them. So that's why I picked up Vine Creeper. So passively, you have these vines that'll appear out of the ground every 7 seconds, and they'll apply poisoning damage over 6 seconds to an enemy in the area. But when you activate it, it summons all the vines around you and immobilizes everyone in that circle for 2 seconds and poisons them for damage. Then I went with Enhanced Vine Creeper. Vine Creeper's immobilized duration is increased by 1 second. And I went with Brutal Vine Creeper to get 20% more crit strike chance. So everything in this build is literally funneling into Landslide, where I immobilize them with Vine Creeper, which is a great CC. I make sure I'm far away so they're counted as distant enemies, and then I use Landslide. Then I went with this, where my Earth skills deal 15% increased damage to slowed, stunned, immobilized, or knocked down targets. Again, all funneling back into Landslide. And I decided to forego a ultimate because Petrify, while it has a very nice AoE, it doesn't really do much, and I felt like I could do way more with just Vine Creeper, Earthen Bulwark, and Landslide, and Earth Spike. I also had Cyclone Armor. I didn't put any points into it, but my gear gave me a point, and I just had that for the extra damage reduction as well. Next up is the gear. I said this class was heavily gear reliant, and I meant it. First off, we have this legendary aspect. Earth skills deal 98% more critical strike damage to crowd controlled enemies. It's amazing, and you kind of need it for Landslide to deal any kind of significant damage. Then we have this one. Basic skills gain 27% attack speed. This class felt almost unplayable without this. So I would strongly urge you to farm for this as soon as you can if you plan on playing this build. Next one, attacking enemies with a basic skill increases the damage of your next core skill, cast by 8% up to 50%. This another legendary aspect that really funnels into Landslide, and that's why you want to spam out your basic skill, and that's why I need the attack speed to make this class feel less clunky. Then you get the max 50%, and then you unleash the Landslide, and it does a lot of damage. You have this one as well. Landslide's Earth Pillars each strike a second time and deal an additional 10% bonus damage per hit. With these 4 legendaries, the class, the build really took off, and it started to feel somewhat playable towards the end of the beta. Thank you for watching the video up to this point. I'm going to upload my rogue build as well. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I did. Plus, I'll upload more Diablo videos as we impatiently wait for the release of Diablo 4 in June.